Welcome back, everyone. We're doing another episode and we're changing up the style of our podcast. Going to make it a little quicker. That way we can show up a lot more frequently, just doing what works for us. And anyway, I'm Isaac and I'm here with Dalton. And today's topic of the podcast is something that Dalton has been writing a little bit about and something that a lot of people are talking about, but I don't think it's as it may be pretty popular. What do you think? What do you think, Dalton?
I
The
don't know.
topic of being a moral monster.
That kind of comes from Jordan Peterson and Joe Rogan and a few others. They say you should become a monster and then learn how to control it. And so the kind of idea is based off that. And I kind of gave a simple definition, not super in depth. But just being able to differentiate between righteousness and evil in every aspect of life to the point of complete submission to that which is righteous in every aspect of life. So um, it's just kind of the thought of like, what makes a monster? A monster is something that's, you know, different, strange. It doesn't really have a genre or anything of that sort. It's separate. And so when you kind of toss the word moral in there, it changes the dynamic a little bit to, hey, don't just become a monster, but become a good monster, I guess, is the kind of idea of it. Um, and so I had a little bit of stuff written down here, just some of the stuff that I wrote.
Yeah,
Um, did a
I,
whole. Oh yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to ask a question about that definition. Like I was looking at it, and it says to differentiate between being righteous and evil, and it's something that I've been kind of thinking about. It's like, um, whenever you wrote that, do you think that you wrote it because to actually be a monster or a person that I'd say maybe it's an anti-hero personality is to actually know all about the evil and choose to be good. But I mean like some people they only know good, it seems like, and not enough evil. So are they actually I don't know. Like do you feel like you have to know a lot about both to actually be that monster? I don't know.
I think some people might think you have to approach it that way. I don't necessarily think that you do.
Yeah.
When you look in biblical terms, evil to a sense is the absence of God, kind of like you don't have to know all about the darkness, to be in the light. You can be in the light. You don't have to know about the darkness. The darkness is just the absence of light. And so, but you have to know what is righteous. And so I would put it that way is you do have to know what is righteous. And so that I don't know if
Gotcha.
that answers your question.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. Okay.
Okay. So yeah, so being a moral monster, yeah, it doesn't mean that you have to go through and learn everything evil to know what is righteous.
Yeah.
Um, but which kind of pulls down to the second thing that I wrote here, um, which is kind of cool. And these are all just kind of basic things that I would say a moral monster would be and would have is one is no gray areas. A lot of us talk about like, well, that's a gray area of life. And it's like, well, I think gray areas are areas in life that no one's given a deep thought to. They've just kind of let it be and they're okay with it. And so they just go on about life. Um, to me, I don't think there's any gray areas. Obviously, we come up like to places in our life where we're like, oh, what do I do? We don't know what to do. but a lot of us, we all have different ways of figuring out what the best option is. And so there's no gray areas to a moral monster. There's no gray areas to right or wrong with someone that is moral. Um, and so
Yeah.
if there's something that a moral monster does not know, he'll search it out and until he finds a solution. It's kind of the thought there.
Yeah. That's something I've been thinking about. And I think it's along the lines of this, what you just said about no gray areas.
Hmm.
I think it's a very prevalent problem in America, especially with the, I think, far left, where if you're not with them, you're against them, but they say that they want equality. And it's, and then I saw this, I saw a little clip of from this random guy. He was saying that like the opposition is good because then it makes you figure out why you believe that maybe that's wrong or why you may believe it's true.
Yeah.
So the opposition is a good thing. Having people that think that, you know, having people that have very strong opinions that um, it's good because then it forces you to figure out what you believe. So anyway, I was just thinking about that. It's like I like that perspective. Um, yeah, maybe like an empathetic understanding and trying to figure out what is right or wrong for you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's it's something that's exactly how it happens is somebody asks a question and somebody has an opposing view, and so you then have to search it out. But yeah, like I said, like we just said, the majority of the time, a lot of people just don't search it out. And so it ends up becoming a gray area. And so, but yeah, definitely with the far left, definitely. And today there's no searching out, you can
Mm,
see it. There's no in-depth conversation. And so, but any more questions? We want to kind of scoot along down. Is that all good? Any more
yeah,
thoughts on that?
let's keep going.
All right. Next I had here was when you decide to do what is right all the time, there's no one that can stop you. This is great. I get really excited when I talk about this. But when you decide to be accountable for the past actions in your life and own them, you're well on your way to becoming a moral monster. A lot of people think that they can't be moral because they've been immoral at some point in time in their life. And it's kind of like a sin that holds them down and drags them down. And it's like, no, you can still take a stance on something that, you made a mistake on and hold to that, even though you screwed up and messed it up, you know? And so a lot of us, I think, and a lot of good men get drugged down and they never become anything because they think they've been defeated. Um, and I think the two key things here to not becoming defeated like that is one, to own them, which is being accountable. Own your own immorality, own your own sin, um, and acknowledge it. And people can't really do anything after that to drag you down. It's when you tell them, it's like when they point the finger like, well, but it's like, yeah, I did, and it was wrong. Now what are you gonna do? It's like I just
Yeah,
told you I did wrong. I'm admitting it. It was wrong. And it very quickly just shuts the conversation down to back to the basic level. And so I think that right there is super important is own your mistakes.
yeah.
Um,
I,
but
I believe you become a very dangerous and capable person when you own up to your and take accountability for everything that you've ever done. you know,
yeah,
like when you realize the your future and everything you do is a result of what you do. Holy crap! Like you can you can write your own script, you can do whatever you want. Like,
Yeah, you're destructive to every bad idea around you or every bad opinion. It's like it's just that's why I love it. It's like when I learned this and it was like just hey, just carry it, you know? It's like that's yours. It's your mistake. You know, and then, you know, when people call you out on it, it's like, you know, you're gonna that's what we see today, actually, you know. We see people calling each other out on past events just so that they can justify what they do. And it's like that is it's a justification process. And like today we see people calling each other out on something that they did 20 years ago. It's like good night. It's like
yeah,
when are you gonna let it go? You know? And so but you know, just own up to it, you know, and then they can't, you know, it's like, well, he admitted to it. So, and I think everybody kind of acknowledges it unknowingly. They acknowledge that the person that owns up to it has repented to a sense of it. And
yeah.
so when they own up to it, majority of the time, not always, but I think a lot of the time. So
I think
I think,
I
yeah, go ahead.
I think responsibility and accountability just go like hand in hand. Like, I think we talked about this a while back on another podcast about responsibility. I think it was like our first one actually. Um,
Oh yeah.
but
Yep.
like when you are accountable, you are also so responsible, and then you are in turn responsible for to an extent, some of the actions of other people in your life that they are accountable to you. So just a random thought there, but yeah,
Gotcha. So, moral monster. Um, you know, why not just say a moral man or a moral woman? Like that was the original, you know, what we would call, but today, like we don't even know what a moral man or moral woman looks like. It's so they're fading, they're fading out. And so kind of wanted to toss a word in there that kind of, you know, reiterated it. So um morality's become like morality has become what we want to define it as. Um, People start saying, "Well, this is moral." It's like, "Well, why is it moral?" And they just say it and move along. It's my morality. When in truth, you know, nobody defines morality but our God, and so it's already set in stone what is and what is not moral. Nobody gets to decide their own set of morals. Um, it's a set standard for everybody. If everybody's walking around with their own morals, I mean, get rid of the word moral. You don't need it. Um, Nobody needs the word. So you'll be like a monster, something strange to a generation that, you know, I put down here that flops back and forth like a fish on dry land. You know, it doesn't really know what they're doing, and they're slowly suffocating because they can't stick to a moral code. Um, and so that was kind of the thought there. A few more paragraphs here. When you become a moral monster, you'll destroy your adversaries. Um, this is great. And I have a really good example of this that I wanted to use. Um, it's like the first time I realized when I caught concept of this, somebody was calling me out on on a sin of mine that they knew was like something sensitive to me, and they tried to nail me with it, and I was like, you know what, I was like, I never said that I was perfect, you know, I never said that. I said, I completely agree with what you just said, you're absolutely right. And it shut them up like that. It's like they set out intending to upset, anger, and hurt, and I turned it around. And I don't mean it in like an arrogant way, but I didn't kind of realize even what I was doing at the point. I was just like, all right, well, I kind of have to respond to this. And it turned it around to where then they didn't know what to do. So it was like, I don't know what to do at this point. It's like he just admitted to the wrongdoing that I accused him of, even though we both already knew. And I tried to hurt him and he failed and it failed. And so, and I think it
Yeah,
helps
that's a
teach others. Yeah,
yeah,
go ahead.
dude, that's a really good example. I like that. Yeah,
Um,
because you took accountability, which
yeah,
is, I mean, to be honest,
it,
I don't think it's that common in today's day and age. Like
no, it's
everyone's
not.
trying
And
to point fingers.
yeah, it's not. And I think that, yeah, because we went through a few things of just things that we say to try and point the blame elsewhere. Well, it's my circumstances, it's this, it's that, it's the other. It's like, no, just come on. Just it's you.
There's a
And
certain
so
level of like, there's a certain level of power you feel, I think, when you say, yeah, that's me. That's on me. Do you
yeah,
feel that way? Or it's like
yeah,
instead of like you'd think that you'd be like, oh man, just feel really bad, but it's like when you actually just admit it and take ownership, you're taking ownership, and that's a form of,
yeah,
I'd say, maybe power even, where you took responsibility for your actions and now they're yours and what it,
yep,
anyway.
yep. And so like that's the idea of a moral monster is in every aspect of life. You take responsibility. You stand on the moral side, even though you may have not even, maybe even you swapped in that day. Maybe you flopped in that day and realized, no, this is moral. This is what's right. I've been doing it wrong this whole time. They'll immediately, somebody will be there to try to, destroy you. And as long as you just remain with owning up to your own mistakes, you become that moral monster. And so, the next thing is, so when you become a moral monster, you will destroy your adversaries. Um, there will be nothing they can do to stop you from winning in any area of life. And that's really powerful. I don't know if you like to win, but I like to win. And
Like, yeah.
so, what's that?
I said, heck yeah.
Oh, okay. So it's like, yeah. So I think everybody likes to win. Everybody loves to win. Um, and this is something that everybody can win in. Um, there's nothing they can stop you from being accountable. I mean, you're on the what we call it the moral high ground. They can't. It's indestructible. It's something that they can't touch, that nobody can touch, and so it's a great thought to just remind yourself of when you're going through your day. Is like, hey, as long as I remain a moral monster today, I'm going to win. And that's a great feeling to have when you're going through your day. If you may lose at some other things, but you've at least won at that. So I know this may seem to be um, it may be too good to seem to be true to some that might be watching and kind of trying to poke holes in the idea. But I guarantee you, based off the reality of the word morality, it is. You can't really argue it when you go look up the word morality. So I would like to think like the majority of people down deep really know what is and is not moral on a basic level. I wrote like a few things down, pretty simple: lying, cheating, stealing, murder, adultery, deceiving. All basics, things that we're not supposed to do. You can get in trouble legally for them. Um, biblically, they're not okay. Societally, they're damaging. Um, all of these things we can see the side effects of. Um, although we may be guilty of some of them, but not all of them, we can still become a moral monster. And I really want to emphasize that just over and over again, because there's so many people that have just been beat down by a mistake in their life. Um, and and it's crazy. I wonder how much damage to evil and to just terrible ideas some other people would do if they just hadn't been tore down by people constantly, you can't be anything good because you made this mistake. You can never go further in life in this area. It's like, well, nope, nope, you can. You can recover from that. And so I hope that more will become moral monsters. I hope that more will become more deadly to the immorality that disturbs and holds us back. And so that was pretty much what I had. And
I wanna add to that though. The people that try to tear you down for making a mistake, no matter how big or small, um, that should be a signal, I feel like, in your life to limit your contact with them because I think what was it? There was a quote that said there was a guy that said like if like small minds talk about other people, like average minds
yeah,
talk about uh just some like basic and then great minds talk about ideas or something like that. Where it's like if you want to be at a different level in life, you really have to limit the amount of time you spend with people that are only ever talking about other people. So I want to add that in there. And then also, I know you mentioned like a lot of the kind of bigger, more like moral sins or whatever, but like there's a lot of little ones also that we can work on, whether or not we lie
oh
or
yeah,
steal on a daily basis, like
yeah,
that. There's a lot of little things that we can work on and things that I work on a daily basis, whether that's like not being envious or jealous or there's just a lot of like mental things to work on that'll make you a stronger person. And especially when it comes to accountability, that's something everyone can work on a daily basis, whether or not you're attacked verbally for doing something. But like if you did something and it's like, yeah, yeah, I did that. And maybe no one ever finds out that you did that. Maybe it's some small thing, and it doesn't really make a big ripple. But in your head being like, well, if it ever comes back to me, it's like, yeah, that was me. I'm not saying like killing someone and they never find the body. That's not what I'm saying, but like just small
yeah, that was
things.
me. Sorry.
Yeah, just taking ownership of just your life in general. That's something I'm working on a daily basis as well. But dude, I love this topic. Um, I think it's something that I'm working on too, especially going to the gym on a daily basis or a weekly basis. I mean, I don't know. I don't know about going every day. It's not, do you, but being capable is or a moral monster. Like to make yourself a monster, you have to have monster characteristics. You have to be capable. There's I think Jordan Peterson talks about it too, where it's like you're not a good person if you're weak. It doesn't make you good, right? It just makes you weak. So you want to become the monster. You want to become capable, whether that's
Yeah,
physically. Well, I mean, physically is a good thing, but also mentally, you want to be able to go essentially combat people with your words. Like you have to be able to hold yourself in a verbal disagreement, discourse, whatever. So anyway, um, yeah, you're not a good person if it doesn't make you a good person if you're weak. So become something worth battling, I guess. And
yeah.
something I'm working on every day, and it's a journey. So
Oh yeah, it's something every single day you have to keep working at, keep tackling. And this is just the basics, It's just like this is the basic start to becoming a moral monsters. There's so many things that you can do to speed up the process and to really just start knocking it out of the park. But we're we're out of time for this video.
Yeah.
So maybe we can hit some of those later on.
Yeah.
So
Probably one last question before we wrap it up though. Like
yeah.
if you want, what in your opinion is a good few things to do to start to become and to start to have those monster characteristics, those unnormal characteristics? A couple things that come to my mind are just like you got to read more and you should go and exercise more. You got to build your body, build your mind. You got to, work on building your mind. So read, write, stuff like that. Anything that comes to your mind.
Um, the first one, which we just talked about, and this is just maybe you're sitting there and you're like, well, there's some gray areas, there's some things that I don't quite know. Um, just be willing to own them for now, you know, just be willing to own them. Um, and that right there alone will let you know, like, all right, you're on your way to start is one. Um, I'll toss two other ones. I don't know that they're in any specific order. Two is humble yourself to being able to be corrected and be challenged. Uh, challenge is a good thing. Monsters are always challenged. They always will be challenged. So be ready to be challenged with a new idea. Um, and as I'm sitting here thinking, three just slipped from my mind. Um, uh, man, I just had a brain. Oof. It was there and then it left. Um, so own them, be humble. It just came back to me. This is gonna be like one of the things, but find an old crowd. Like if you're young, find an old crowd. They've been around for a little while. They know what they're talking about. Not all of them, but you know, you get yourself into an old council that's been around, the town. They'll they'll know some things and know some ways that they've done wrong, and so it'll grow quicker. And so I guess and not necessarily just old people, but be around smart people.
Yeah,
Don't hang out with your own age group, I guess would be a good idea.
I
I
like
guess
that.
don't not hang out with them, but don't try to gain wisdom from them. Gain wisdom
Right.
from the elders. And so that would be my first, three tips.
Yeah, you can get a lot of life advice from someone who's lived a life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I like that.
So
I like that. Those are
uh,
some solid points, man. So I think it's a good way to wrap up the episode. What do you think?
awesome. It's great, man.
Love it. Awesome.
Yes.
All right, we'll be back
Love
on
it.
next week.
All right. See you.